time for the real May to please stand up. Welcome back. This is Sean's Take. My name is Sean Redmond, and today my take is on Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Will the real May please stand up? This will be your spoiler warning right here, right up front. If you haven't seen this episode, know that from here forward, I will assume you've seen it, and I won't hesitate to spoil what happens. Also, I'll be using clips of the episode as part of this review, which is allowed as part of the fair use provision of the 1976 Copyright Act. Let's dig in. Okay, so we do have two timelines, as we normally do in this show, but the two timelines in this episode are 2012 and quote-unquote present day, which is 2015. So it's now in 3 years ago. I'm going to talk about all the stuff from 3 years ago, and then we'll cover current. Okay, so the first thing we see in 2012 is May, who we find out her real name is Cora, and I may slip back and forth. Whichever one I use, I mean that person, May. She's out to dinner. At first, it looks like a date with Brenda. Brenda works at AET, and you may recognize Brenda. The actress name is Dominique Tripper, and she is best known for her work on the series The Expanse, which we may do a rewatch of here because I really like The Expanse, and she was really good in it. So she plays Brenda, and at the end of their second bottle of wine, she pitches to May about coming to work for AET. Now, it does seem like there is a history with these two. Brenda refers to May as, the CEO of her parents' basement, and it seems to be more than just knowledge. Like maybe there was a thing there, or almost a thing there. So we find out that May, Cora, takes the job. And it doesn't take long for her to not like corporate life. And she doesn't like that her coding is disappearing down a rabbit hole. She doesn't know why she was hired. She thought Brenda told her she was one of the best, blah, blah, blah. And Brenda reveals her true colors. And she says, you do what you need to do. You pay your dues like everybody else. And everything you write is property of the company. You don't get to know what happens to it. Which is not the thing May wanted to hear, or Cora. So she breaks into some of the ultra secret research May does and discovers that they are testing things on animals, specifically chimpanzees, with neuro things in their brains. And she does something. The next thing we see is Cora at home, and her phone is blowing up with all kinds of texts from coworkers. Everyone's looking for you. Did something happen? And then finally, the one at the top says, from Brenda, I know it was you. At which point, Cora / May decides she has to run. And she packs and takes her sister's passport and runs. And that's pretty much everything we hit in the before time, 2012. So we learned that it really is her sister that she was calling. And the company that she is nefariously associated with is not Monarch, but AET, which is almost as bad. So that's why she's been on the run, and she was serious, truth about calling her sister, and her name's Cora. So now, flash forward to 2015, and we find out that Tim survived a helicopter crash, which I think it's funny that he'd be the only one. But anyway, Tim survives the helicopter crash, digs himself out of the sand, and somehow walks to the airport. Kate and Kentaro, the brother and sister, Kate and Ken, they have a brief conversation about, what their dad could be doing, why he could have been out there, and why he would have gone away from them, having seen that they were there. But as they're talking, Kate realizes that May is missing. She went to the bathroom like 40 minutes ago. So they go to find May, and then we see that May is in the bathroom, and two men walk in to the ladies' room. And May says, you'll have to forgive me. I've never been kidnapped before. How do we do this? Kate gets to the bathroom and she goes in, doesn't find May, but does find May's bag with her passport and cell phone. So as Kate and Kentaro are wondering how they should go about finding May, Kentaro saying, you told her to go away. She went away. What do you want to do? Then they see Tim walking into the airport. And of course, Tim just walked out of the desert. He's a little thirsty. He's covered in sand. And he goes and he buys some water. And Kate lays into him immediately, where's Kate, or where's May? What have you done with her? And he's like, oh, I don't have her. We didn't do anything. So Tim sits down with them at the airport as he's having his water and begins to talk to them about their grandparents and what they formed and what Monarch is, and their father, and how it was Hiroshi, their father, that brought Tim into Monarch, or the first person that Tim met in Monarch. And he said he never said much, but when he did, it changed the entire conversation. He would see everything from a different point of view, which is interesting because Kentaro is an artist, and artists see things differently. So that's a little bit of a thing. And he mentions about Hiroshi shaving his pencils to keep them sharp and leaving the shavings everywhere, which is, of course, something we know he did. And so Kate believes him because of that, I guess. We have to move on somehow. Kentaro takes Kate aside and says, we have brother-sister things to talk about. And she says, brother-sister things? And Kentaro says, we can't trust him. And Kate says, we don't have too many options right now. He can help us find May. And of course, Kentaro says, I don't want to find May, and I don't want to find Dad anymore. We found him, and then he ran away. Kate's definitely the strongest of those siblings. And so they decide for Tim to help. And Tim tells them the truth about May, that May's not her real name, that she was traveling on a fake passport, that she has a past, and she was running from something, and it wasn't Monarch at first. And so the three of them go to her childhood home and talk to her mom and sister, who don't know where May is, but that she travels a lot for work. So when they're leaving, the little sister didn't buy their story about meeting May for a MAGA conference, and they end up following the sister, who's smarter than they are, and she corners them in a parking garage, and they end up telling her somewhat the truth. And that's when they find out that May, Cora, worked for AET, and that sort of leads Tim to connect the dots. So while all this is happening, we do see Lee Shaw, Kurt Russell's Lee Shaw, walk into, with the few people he has, walks into what turns out to be Outpost 88 and proclaims himself in charge, as one does. Dr. Barnes, who was the remote scientist we saw on the beach in her camper that registered the first gamma rays, do I have that right? And she called into Monarch. She's there, but she went to the bathroom. Shaw comes in. She sees Shaw taking over, and she calls Verdugo. Duvall sees? I don't know that she actually saw her. She knows somebody's there and goes after her. And Brenda gets away, ends up, reporting it and all that. And, Verdugo says, well, why would he come there? And as she says that, we see Shaw pull the tarp off of all of the explosives that are there. And he's going to do something big. So we get to see a current conversation between May, Cora, and Brenda. And there's some ticky-tack things about, if I needed a lawyer, I wouldn't be sitting here, and blah, blah, blah. We do find out that what Cora did was delete and destroy years of research and millions of dollars worth of research. So it's not just going to go away. Tim, to get access to AET, activates Seattle's Titan warning system like they have in Tokyo, except that nobody in Seattle knew that there was a Titan warning system yet. So it panics the entire city. But they do get access to AET. Brenda sees them coming, and she's not concerned because she knew if there was a Titan attack, she would have already known before the alert was ever sounded. So she makes May/Cora an offer to keep doing what she's doing. Stay with Kate, stay with Tim, work with Monarch, but report back anything you find. Tim, Kate, and Kentaro come up the stairs. Brenda walks out, says, I'm glad we can reach this deal. May's free to go. May says to Kate, I'm not going. I've been living a lie. I don't want to be that person anymore. Just go. And she sends them away and goes back into Brenda's office. And Brenda says, well, I guess you've made your decision. So Tim, Kate, and Kentaro are outside AET's building, and they're talking about what to do next since they don't have May anymore, and they are grabbed and pushed into a car. And who should be waiting for them but Verdugo? There's a brief exchange between Tim and Verdugo about, using the warning system. Kate is becoming stronger, and she says, listen, we found my dad's map. We found all the clues. We found my dad in the middle of the desert. We found Godzilla. You found Stugats. You should help us. And she says, you have a Lee Shaw problem, and I can help you with it. And she agrees. There's not too many resources, but, Tim can help them. But as a condition, Kate wants Monarch to use its influence to get May clear. And so we see Brenda sitting at her desk, and May is sitting next to, on the guest couch. And the phone rings, and she answers it. And her secretary says, Verdugo from Monarch is here to see you. And we just see a close-up of Brenda's face, and then May is free. May is home. Actually, she gets to go home. She's cleared of all of the things, and they're going to all go together and find Lee Shaw. Before they did that, Tim tells Verdugo that while they have to put out a PR thing to cover the warning system, that Verdugo, should do it herself. That she should step out of the shadows, that Monarch should come out of the shadows, let everybody know what they're doing, that there is a team working on their behalf to keep them safe. And strangely, she agrees, and she actually does the announcement to let everybody know who Monarch is, that they're working on warning systems, and they're going to protect everybody as best they can. Cora does decide to go with them. So we see Lee Shaw in a helicopter, and they've planted the explosives that they took from Outpost 88 around the opening in Alaska where the radiation is coming out. And they explode the inner ring and then the outer ring, and it all collapses in and seals the opening to the Titan realm. And so Lee Shaw has succeeded. He's closed that rift. And now we know what he's up to. He's going to try and close their world from our world and protect everybody. The end. So we did move along quite a bit in this episode. We learned that what Lee's going to try to do is seal off the Titans so that they don't come here and we don't have to kill them anymore. And it also seals off the opening so that we can't go there anymore. We learned Cora's real name. She does tell Kate towards the end to go ahead and call her May. That's going to be confusing for these reviews as we go forward. But we're coming down to it. There's not too many episodes left. I thought this was a good episode for everybody. Actually, Kate matured a little bit. And it's funny, when Verdugo referred to her as, okay, educate me, school teacher. I had forgotten she was a school teacher because the character has never seemed old enough to be working like that. But then we saw her maturity a little bit when she did the deal and said, you have a Shaw problem. So I thought that was good for her to grow. And that Lee has a plan. The thing we don't know yet is why Lee Shaw allowed himself to sit in captivity for so long before escaping. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments what you're thinking of all of these things and where we're going. That's it for this one. I'll be back next week for the next episode. My name's Sean. This is Sean's Take. See you next time.